Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record.
Daniel Ocean.
Mr. Ocean, we've convened here today to determine whether you've been cured of your compulsion to collect and hoard movie posters. We've located several hidden locations throughout your apartment, absolutely full of movie posters. Your wife is furious. Though not technically a crime we can charge you with, this compulsion must end.
As you say, ma'am, I was never charged.
Under the bed, in the closet, the storage unit, the kitchen, even the fridge.
I was upset. I got into a self-destructive pattern.
If we release you from this facility, is it likely you'll continue to collect movie posters?
Hold on one sec. Welcome to Paper and Light, the YouTube channel about movie posters. Today we're going to be talking about a classic, a banger, a heist film for the ages. Ocean's 11. You know, I dressed up for the occasion, felt right. Okay, full disclosure, that's whiskey, but it looked like apple juice. It wasn't very convincing. It is whiskey. It's Kirkland whiskey because I like value. And I have some Red Bull over here, and I thought, well, maybe I'll pour some of the Red Bull in and it'll make it darker and more convincingly a whiskey color, but it sort of turned it kind of a pink lemonade color, so it was a mistake. Ocean's 11.
10 ought to do it, don't you think?
These go to 11.
Spoiler alert, I love this poster. I had a reprint of this plaque mounted back in 2007. It hung in my basement theater room for years. When I started getting serious about movie poster collecting, I purchased a double-sided one sheet from emovieposter.com in 2013 for $17 US. This double-sided one sheet measures the standard 27 inches by 40 inches and is extremely red. It's getting colder outside here in Canada, and I'm so glad I have the warm glow from this poster to keep me comfy and cozy. Oh, that's good. Ocean's 11 is the 2001 remake of the 1960 film of the same name, starring the original Rat Pack.
You really are a rat.
I would say the original film is pretty awful, borderline unwatchable. I've never been able to get through it. The remake was directed by Steven Soderbergh, coming off of his amazing 1-2 punch of Erin Brockovich and Traffic back in 2000. Those two films earned him twin Best Directing Oscar nominations, one for each film in the same year. That's never happened again since, and he won for Traffic, giving one of the all-time best acceptance speeches.
I want to thank anyone who spends part of their day creating. I don't care if it's a book, a film, a painting, a dance, a piece of theater, a piece of music.
So after making these two intense, gritty, Oscar-winning dramatic films, what does Mr. Soderbergh decide to make? A heist film that's from beginning to end pure, lighthearted joy. From the cast to the sets to the music, everything is working beautifully together here. This movie looks like it was as much fun to make as it is to watch. Soderbergh assembled one of the greatest casts of all time, and they all agreed to work on this film for way less than their normal salaries. That's what Oscar Gold wins you, baby. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, Julia Roberts, Don Cheadle, Bernie Mac, Casey Affleck, Scott Conn, Elliot Gould, Carl Reiner. We'll never see anything like this again.
Until Ocean's 12.
Apparently, Mark Wahlberg was originally cast in the role of Linus Caldwell, but decided to drop out in order to star in the 2001 remake of Planet of the Apes. Ouch. Despite this being a cheery heist film, Steven Soderbergh still fills it with the serious amount of detail.
I'd say you're looking at a Boski, a Jim Brown, a Miss Daisy, two Jethros, and Leon Spinks. Not to mention the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever.
Okay, strap in. This is not just some throwaway speech that's meant to go over your head. There's meaning to all of this, and we're gonna go through it.
I'd say you're looking at it. A Boski.
A Boski is a reference to Ivan Boski, a Wall Street insider trader who was charged with several crimes. Reuben is the Boski, the bankroller with insider info into Benedict's casinos.
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown is a reference to Jim Brown, the NFL player and civil rights activist. Frank Catton performs the Jim Brown con, distracting Terry Benedict while Linus grabs his keycard.
A Miss Daisy.
Miss Daisy is a reference to the film Driving Miss Daisy, and it pertains to the crew leading the security team on a merry chase using a remote-driven van.
Two Jethros.
Two Jethros is a reference to the character Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies. Rusty knew they'd need two goofy hillbilly types to work as a distracting pair. Both the Malloy brothers have some rather Jethro-like qualities.
Some Leon Spinks.
Leon Spinks is a reference to the boxer Leon Spinks, who surprised the world when he defeated Muhammad Ali in 1978. This is a reference to the boxing match that's central to the entire con.
Not to mention the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever.
Can the amplified voice of Ella Fitzgerald shatter this glass? Believe it.
And finally, the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever, which is a reference to the Memorex tape commercials from the 1970s, featuring the singer breaking a glass with her voice. They would use this phrase, "Is it live or is it Memorex?" claiming the audience and the glass couldn't tell the difference. This is the part of the con where they show Terry Benedict footage of his vault being blown up. Is it live or is it taped? When Rusty shows up as a doctor, he's wearing a very oddly familiar wig. There's sort of a Vegas cinematic universe that exists, and this movie is a big part of it. The film's producer, Jerry Weintraub, appears in the high roller room.
I wouldn't get into Terry Benedict for too much money.
He also appears in both Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13, playing the same character, Denny Shields. And he also appears in the film Vegas Vacation. In both appearances, he's next to the same person. In the Martin Scorsese film Casino, a gambler gets his hand smashed with a hammer because he was cheating at blackjack. The same actor, Joe Ledoux, appears as a used car salesman in Ocean's 11, and he winces when Frank Catton shakes his hand too hard, suggesting that he might be playing the same character. One of the more glaring and notorious performances in this film is Don Cheadle attempting a Cockney accent.
Oh, that's terrific. It'll be nice working with proper villains again. Oh, leave it out.
It's not very good, but I don't know what the problem is. You had one job to do. Trouble! One of the scenes that Don Cheadle features in is the demolition of a Vegas hotel. Terry Benedict, Tess, and Ruben preside over the festivities, and we see a hotel fall in the distance. This wasn't actually the original hotel that was demolished, that was the New York, New York. But since the film was coming out post 9/11, for obvious reasons, they didn't want to depict any New York buildings being destroyed. This is the original shot. This film really bookends itself beautifully. It begins with Danny Ocean being released from prison, and it ends with Danny Ocean being released from prison. The Clair de Lune music is playing when the crew gathers for the first time at Ruben's house, and it's the music that's playing when they're looking at the fountain and they go their separate ways at the end. Ocean's 11 was the right film at the right time. It was released in December of 2001, and it's fair to say that a warm, whimsical caper film is exactly what audiences were after. It went on to gross over $450 million. Huge. In order to market this film, the studio put out 5 distinct poster designs. There's this walking silhouette teaser poster, a black and white one sheet, this international golden design, taking a stroll through Vegas, and the main US one sheet that I have in my collection. This poster was designed by Indica Entertainment, a New York-based design firm established in 1994. Did they use the one sheet design in the physical media? Let's see what I was able to scrounge up. So the first physical release was VHS, of course. As you can see, they did not go with the one-sheet artwork, which is a bit of a shame. They went with this sort of golden design. I kind of get it too. I mean, this does show off the stars of the film a little bit better. They kind of went with this colorful circle motif, which was seen in the trailer. I wouldn't say it's a nicer image to look at, but I do think it might advertise the film a little bit better. Next up, we had Ocean's 11 on DVD, basically exactly the same as the VHS. And this is back when they used to release things in both widescreen and full screen. I never understood why everyone didn't just buy these, and then there was a feature on your DVD player where you could just zoom in on the image, which is exactly the same as what they did here, but whatever. And they did release this later in this sort of standard DVD case. This was probably cheaper to manufacture in the long run, but I loved these original Warner Brothers paper cases. I always thought they looked really good and felt kind of nice and looked great on a shelf. Why on earth would they have to call this Danny Ocean 13? Ocean is his last name, and 13 is just a number. I mean, are you kidding me with that? Not a big fan of having to put French and English on the same spine, particularly here when the title of the film is just someone's name? I don't get it. Next up, we have the Blu-ray box set. And it features the one-sheet poster right here. I like symmetry when it comes to my box set, so I'm grateful they put in the time for this one. Snake Eyes. There is an Ocean's 11 novelization. It's just kind of funny to me that this was still happening in the early 2000s, and they used the teaser poster for this, which I think looks really good. Kind of a fun little score. Next up, we have the CD soundtrack. I don't love that this artwork is kind of peeking out behind. Crew looking at the Bellagio, which is a super great image, but I do wish they had continued this, and they ended up doing that for Ocean's 12. And you can see what I mean where it just goes all the way across, artwork underneath. They could have shifted it over again slightly, I guess, but that's always my favorite when it comes to these CD jewel case releases. And finally, we have the soundtrack release on vinyl. This is basically exactly the same as the CD, so they use the same cover and the same back design as well. Let's open it up and check it out. Oh, that is so cool. That's just really beautiful. That's very reminiscent of the one-sheet poster. Well, I would say this is the best physical release for Ocean's 11. Mondo does amazing stuff. So what do I think of this movie poster? What's the art score? A is for aesthetics. How good is the design? How pleasing is the typography, the overall visuals, and the vibe of the poster? Basically, is it nice to look at? I think the typography here is really strong, and the overall design is very interesting. Your eye is drawn to these figures in silhouette, with these lens flares revealing the faces of a few. It has a lot of energy overall. It almost feels like a concert poster or album cover. The text is clean and simple, not taking away from the elegance of the design. And now, it's tagline time. They're having so much fun, it's illegal. For aesthetics, I give this a 3 out of 3. I love looking at this poster. R is for representation. Does it represent the film very well? Does it match the look and feel and the ideas it's presenting? Is there a sense of story? For representation, I think this hits the mark fairly well, while not entirely representing the film as a whole. It's incredibly cool, suave, effortless, which the film is, but the film is also a lot of fun. I wouldn't necessarily call this design fun, but that's a very tricky thing to achieve. For representation, I give this poster a 2 out of 3. T is for titillation. Does this poster inspire any excitement or intrigue? Does it make us want to watch the movie? 3 out of 3 for me. Boom. Done. Yes, love this poster. Makes me want to watch the movie. Makes me want to hang up the poster. I did for years, decades in fact. There's something about the silhouette against a solid color. No wonder they used it for those iPod commercials a few years later. So with an art score of 8 out of 10, this poster is almost a straight flush. Hits the jackpot. A full house! So, what does my lucky lady think? Luck be a lady tonight. Well, there you have it, everyone. We did it. The first wife point has been awarded to Ocean's 11. Yes, well earned, well deserved. 9 out of 10. Boom. Nearly a perfect score. Incredible. I love it, and I agree. Of course I do. I mean, this is my show. It is my opinion that this is a 9 out of 10. Good art makes you feel, and this poster makes me feel comfortable. When I first moved away from home into my first place, my window was, I think, maybe a couple of feet, seemingly, away from the SkyTrain, which is an above-ground train here in Vancouver. And in order to sort of combat the noise and fall asleep at night, I thought, oh, I should put on a movie. And I had exactly 2 tapes, Ocean's 11 and 7.
Oh, what's in the box?
So I would throw on Ocean's 11, which was not a movie that I had any real special love for or anything at the time. I would watch it for 10 or 15 minutes and I'd set the sleep timer on the TV and it would turn off. And it just became this weird comfort thing for me where I watch this movie probably realistically hundreds of times. If I throw this on, it's just like a blanket over me. I know that's probably a bit of a unique take on this movie. So when my wife and I decided to take a trip to Vegas in 2018, we stayed at the Bellagio because it's just etched into my brain. But that's the power of film. It's these things that kind of seep into our lives, and I've always had a huge soft spot for this one. Steven Soderbergh stated that Ocean's 11 was my opportunity to try and make a movie that has no desire except to give you pleasure from beginning to end. A movie that you just surrender to, without embarrassment and without regret. In my opinion, that was fully achieved, which is a rare gift indeed. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Since you've made it this far into the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing. Give those buttons down there a little tickle. See what happens. I believe the best collections need to be shared, and in that spirit, for this episode, I'm gonna be giving away the vinyl soundtrack to this movie. If you've got a little record collection at home, this would be a great addition to it. If you're interested in winning this soundtrack album, all you gotta do is check out my Patreon, the link to which will be in the description box below. We do major giveaways for each episode, and we ship worldwide. So check out my Patreon for that. I really appreciate the support, which goes towards showing you even more interesting posters in the future. So thanks everyone for watching. I can't wait to show you more. This is totally empty.
You had one job to do.